Welcome back to Ask Lee, and we are doing a question from Alchemy Lower today regarding dragon magic, and probably get onto a couple other questions as well, so let's see how it goes anyway.
Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button.
Okay, as always, if you have any questions for the Ask Lee segment, then just put them in the comments below, and I will add them to the queue. Alright, so from Alchemy Lover, what are your thoughts on dragon magic and asking for your guardian dragon to come through? If you work with guardian dragon, how did you connect? Alright, so I'm not into the draconic current myself. I have worked with dragon energy, and this probably is going to be very much a personal interpretation of my own, and how I've come to understand it and know it. Now, a long time ago, very much at the beginning of my practice, I did connect with what I could call my guardian dragon, a very powerful force, and will always be around, has always been around, and will always be with me. But now when it comes to draconic energy, what I view this very much to be is it's almost natural forces in the land, and these forces flow through the land, but they also flow through us. So, this is also very much related to serpent energy, to, if I got the word correct, certainly gone out of my mind, Orphic energy. So when we talk about the serpent, we also often talk about the dragon. And if we look at the Kundalini serpent, this can be viewed in the same manner as being the energy, which is draconic. So whereas we talk about the Kundalini serpent unwinding and moving up the spine, up the central channel, we can also talk about riding the dragon. Peter Padden actually mentions this in his book, A Grimoire for Modern Cunning Folk, if I remember, if that's the title. My brain seems to have gone a bit mushy today. Have a look for the book anyway. It's a great book, fantastic, by Peter Padden, and he speaks about the dragon and the crown, or the drake and the crown, dragon and the crown. Now, this is very much in reference to the lower self and the higher self, or what I would personally call the fetch beast and the fetch mate, or the fetch beast and the holy guardian angel being the fetch mate. So, we've got all these different terms and interpretations of these things. However, in the book, he speaks about the dragon energy, and there's an exercise in there to actually ride your dragon. Now, a big part of this is actually getting control of the dragon. If you do not have proper control of the dragon, then the dragon will control you. And we find this very much with Kundalini Tantra. If you do not have proper control, if you have not done the proper exercises to raise Kundalini, you could find that you end up with psychoses, with migraines, headaches, hallucinations, a whole lot of things that can happen, and all negative things that can happen if you do not raise your Kundalini correctly, if you do not go through the proper processes and do the proper exercises in order to move it up. And with that, what we can then all come back to and parallel with is the serpent within the land. And the serpent within the land we can connect to, and it comes through the land and through our body. And what we're then doing is raising the serpent within ourselves, and this can be interpreted as being the dragon. So what we're doing when we are raising Kundalini is, in essence, for my personal interpretation anyway, is riding the dragon. And if we do not have proper control of the dragon, that can end up in a very bad place. So we have to have proper control of the dragon through exercises and bringing control into our own magical practice and with ourselves, and riding the dragon up through the central channel in order for the dragon to be crowned. And the crowning is obviously the culmination of raising Kundalini. So that for me is very much a draconic energy, as opposed to working with dragons. Now, there was an old book, DJ Conway, Dancing with Dragons, which I seem to recall was published in 1994. I have started reading that again. I read it many years ago, and DJ Conway, when it comes to history and stuff, has been debunked. Is not a very good source. So this, that book alone was always one of the books that people would go straight to for dragon magic. And I heard it mentioned recently by somebody who is now teaching dragon magic. So that was their introduction into dragon magic. But I would warn you that it, ever since the early 90s when it came out, it's been noted as not being a very good source. And DJ Conway, as a historian from a historical perspective, was debunked, and just not a great book. But still interesting to read. I am rereading it again because I did notice that she did bring out 2 other books on dragon magic which succeeded the first one, so I'm having a look at it again. So far I'm not very impressed, but we'll see how that goes anyway. Alright, so that really is my interpretation of dragon magic. And as I said, with the guardian dragon that came to me, this is just a powerful force. It's a guardian. It is very much related to the fetch beast, actually. That aspect of ourselves which is guide and guardian. So it's just another energy which comes through, and it's not necessarily a dragon that we may think of as being a dragon. It can also just be that we interpret that energy as being draconic, but we see it as a dragon, and that's perfectly fine. But that's my experience with dragons anyway. Alright, let me do one more question. This is from Taylor Trent. Can you feel presences, and how do you develop that ability? I believe the name for this is clairsentience. Thank you. Alright, I can feel presences in a manner. Now, when we say feel, and when we talk about the sight, actually let's talk about that first. So when we talk about the sight, we often relate this back to our physical senses, but this is a second set of senses. So as I said, we relate it back to our physical senses that we have in our normal everyday life. So when we talk about sight, we often come straight back to the eyes, because this is where we see. But when we are talking about psychic senses, and we talk about the sight or the vision, we're not talking about just what we can see with our eyes. We are talking about what we can see with our entire being, what we can sense, what we can feel, what we can touch, what we can taste. So when we are seeing with a capital S, we are seeing with our entire being, and everybody's psychic senses are going to be developed differently. You can do exercises to develop them. There are a lot out there. So it's probably better to try and find one that works better for you, and your own manner of learning, of progressing and things like that. But whereas one person may have clairaudience, where they hear spirits, another person may have clairvoyance, where they see the spirits, visually see them. Clairsentience is more about knowing. So when we talk about clairsentience, it's knowing something. And when I talk about, or you ask the question, can you feel presences? When I feel presences, it's a knowing. I do often feel a tangible, visceral type of presence or feeling, but it depends on which spirit it is, where I am. I did have an experience at the river once where I was going to go and clean up the river, and each week I went back, I kept forgetting to take a bag with me to pick up all the rubbish. And I went there one week and I remembered to take a bag with me this time. But I got down into the river and I hit a barrier. It was like a wall. I was just walking straight into this wall, and I couldn't go any further until I proved that I was going to clean the river. So these were the nature spirits in that area that were saying, you promised, you clean up the area because you said you would, and you're not doing it, so you're not going any further until you actually prove that you will do it. But it was a visceral feeling. It was literally like walking into a wall. And as I hit it, I had a bit of fear, the senses that I could feel, and it was that a direct communication of, you are not going any further until you prove that you are doing what you said you will do. So I did. I took out the bag and I started cleaning, and they let me through. That barrier kind of dropped. So I do feel the tangible feeling sometimes. But at the same time, and I've mentioned this quite a lot before, I do Reiki and energy healing. Now, when somebody is doing Reiki, the practitioner themselves, they usually feel tingling or a heat or something moving through their hands. And the person who's receiving will also report that they feel a heat or something. When I do Reiki, I don't feel anything. There's nothing physical for me. I cannot feel it at all. But the person receiving does report that they do feel a lot of heat, quite intense heat. So, in that regard, I don't feel it. But at the same time, when I am doing a healing, I know. There's a sticky energy that's on the left side of the body or the right side of the body. It might be on the leg, it might be on the arm, but I know. I can't see it. I don't have clairvoyance. I don't hear it. don't taste it. I don't smell it, but I know, and it's something you just have to trust. A lot of people call it instinct. Maybe it is, but it's just a case of I know. So I don't feel it as in I sense it with my almost physical senses, physical touch, but I do know, and so therefore I feel in that way, because we're talking about the psychic senses, and therefore with the psychic senses and with sight, we are doing this with our entire being. And again, some people may have a more developed visual sense. Some people may have a more developed audio sense. Some people may just, as clairsentience is just know that it's there, know that they need to move in a certain direction, place their hands in a certain point, do a particular thing, say a particular thing, chant a particular chant, whatever it is, they just know they have to do it, and therefore they do it. Alright, so hopefully that answers your question. Alright, so I'm going to leave that here for this week, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one for now. Bye bye.